I want you to think about how many people can see exactly where you are right now without you ever having to tell them directly. Location sharing has become such an ordinary part of how people stay connected that most of us stopped thinking of it as a decision at all. You share your location with your sister, your best friend, your partner, and you simply forget over time that it is still active, that somewhere on someone else's phone, a small icon representing you is quietly updating itself every time you move. I want to tell you about the 6 weeks I spent slowly realizing that one of those small icons on my sister's map was not simply watching her. My name doesn't matter for this story. What matters is that I am a 27-year-old woman living in Sacramento, California, and my older sister, Claire, is 31, living about 15 minutes away with her 2 kids. This is the story of a man neither of us had thought about in over a year, and what we discovered when we finally looked closely at where his location marker had actually been appearing. It started as something almost too small to mention. Claire and I were sitting on her couch one evening, scrolling through the Snapchat map the way we sometimes did, mostly out of boredom, checking which friends were awake, which ones were traveling, that kind of idle, low-stakes curiosity the app seems almost designed to encourage. Claire pointed at one icon in particular, her ex-boyfriend, Ryan, a relationship that had ended a little over a year earlier, reasonably amicably as far as either of us understood it at the time. They had simply drifted apart, no dramatic falling out, no reason either of us had ever considered him someone to be wary of. "Isn't that weird?" she said, tapping his icon. "He's always around your neighborhood lately." I remember laughing it off in the moment. Sacramento is not a small city, but it is not an enormous one either, and people's paths cross constantly without any particular meaning behind it. I told her it was probably nothing, a friend he had in the area, a gym he'd started going to, any number of unremarkable explanations. I did not think about that comment again for almost 2 weeks. The second time I thought about it, I was the one who noticed, not Claire. I had gone out to a coffee shop near my apartment on a Saturday morning, a place I'd visited fairly regularly but had never specifically mentioned to Ryan or to anyone in his general orbit as far as I was aware. Out of pure idle habit, waiting for my order, I opened Snapchat and glanced at the map. His icon was there, not simply in Sacramento generally, but positioned, as precisely as the app's map allows, within the same few blocks as the coffee shop I was currently sitting in. I told myself again that this was coincidence. It was a popular area, plenty of businesses nearby, no specific reason to think his presence there had anything to do with my own. But I found myself glancing at the map again before I left, and again once I got home, tracking his icon's movement with an attentiveness I would not normally give a friend's location on an app I mostly used for idle curiosity. His icon moved over the following hour in a path that roughly mirrored my own drive home. I started paying closer attention after that, in a way I felt slightly embarrassed about even as I was doing it. I began taking screenshots of the map whenever his icon appeared somewhere that overlapped with my own location, telling myself I was probably being paranoid, that I would look at the pattern in a week or two and laugh at how little it actually amounted to. I did not laugh at it. Over the following 2 weeks, I documented 6 separate occasions where his location, as shown on the map, placed him within a few blocks of wherever I happened to be: my apartment, the coffee shop, my gym, a restaurant where I'd met a friend for dinner on a Tuesday night I had not posted about or mentioned to anyone outside that one friend. I called Claire and laid it out for her, the 6 screenshots, the dates, the locations. She was quiet for a long moment on the phone. "He doesn't know you live, does he? You never dated him. You barely know him beyond me." That was true. Ryan and I had met perhaps a handful of times over the 2 years he dated my sister. Family dinners, a couple of group outings. I had never given him my address. I had never, as far as I could recall, even discussed my daily routine with him in any detail at all. Claire checked her own settings that night and found something neither of us had thought to look at in the year since she and Ryan had broken up. She had, at some point during their relationship, shared her own location with him on the app, the way people in relationships often do. That sharing had simply never been revoked after they split, not out of any conscious decision to keep it active, but out of the same quiet inattention that leaves most digital permissions in place long after the reason for granting them has ended. That explained how he could see Claire's location. It did not, on its own, explain how his movements had come to consistently overlap with mine. We sat with that question together for a long time that night, on the phone, going over every possible explanation. And then Claire said the thing that made the entire pattern click into place in a way I had not let myself consider. She had, "I can see your location, and I've been at your apartment or near it almost every week for the kids' schedule stuff. He's not following you specifically, he's following me. You've just been where I've been." It was, in some ways, a relief to have an explanation that did not center entirely on me. It was also, in another way, considerably more disturbing because it meant Ryan had been tracking my sister's exact movements in detail for over a year, without her knowledge or consent, using access she had simply forgotten to remove. Claire revoked his location access that same night. We both assumed, naively, that this would be the end of it. It was not. 3 days later, Claire told me she had seen Ryan's car, a distinctive older model she recognized immediately, parked on the street near her house twice that week, at times that did not correspond to anything she could explain, given that he had no remaining reason to be in her neighborhood at all. We filed a report together, at that point no longer willing to treat any of it as coincidence. The officer who took our joint report explained that revoking location access after an extended period of unrestricted sharing does not erase whatever pattern of knowledge someone has already built from it. Ryan had, over the preceding year, apparently learned Claire's routine schedule closely enough that he did not need continued app access to predict where she, and by extension I, would likely be at a given time. "He's not tracking you through the app anymore," the officer told Claire. "He's tracking you through what the app already taught him." The following weeks involved considerably more documentation than either of us expected. Dates, timestamps, screenshots, the car sightings, a formal statement from each of us establishing the pattern clearly enough for the court to take seriously. Claire was granted a temporary restraining order against Ryan within 2 weeks based on the combined weight of the location pattern, the unexplained car sightings, and a brief, deeply uncomfortable phone call he made to her afterward, in which he denied following her at all while somehow referencing a specific detail about her son's after-school pickup time that she had never discussed with him since their breakup. That detail, more than anything else, was what convinced the judge the pattern was deliberate rather than coincidental. A restraining order was formalized, and Ryan was, as far as either of us has been able to confirm since, no longer in the area, though neither of us has any illusion that a piece of paper fully guarantees that on its own. I want to be honest that the legal process, while ultimately protective, did not feel especially satisfying in the moment. It took weeks of building a case out of something that had started as an offhand comment on a couch, scrolling through an app neither of us had ever thought to take seriously as a genuine safety concern.
Claire and I both went through our full location sharing settings after everything was resolved, on every app, not just the one this had started with. We found permissions granted years earlier to people we no longer spoke to, relationships that had ended, friendships that had faded, access that had simply never been revoked, because revoking it had never once occurred to either of us as something worth doing. If you use any app that shares your location with friends or former partners, I want you to take one specific thing from what happened to my sister and me. Go through that list tonight. Not just the people you actively worry about, everyone. Anyone whose reason for having that access ended, whether through a breakup, a lost friendship, or simply drifting apart, should have that access removed, deliberately, rather than left in place through simple inattention. Location sharing is built for convenience, for staying connected to the people currently in your life. It was never built with a clear mechanism for remembering to remove people once they no longer are. That gap, the one between granting access and remembering to revoke it, is exactly where situations like ours are able to quietly take root for months, or in Claire's case, over a year, before anyone notices. Check your list tonight, not because everyone on it is a threat, simply because you deserve to actually know who's still watching, rather than finding out the way we did.